Is it really so easy to find happiness with having very little money? Before I chat about happiness, or at least contentment, in retirement, when you're doing it on a strict budget, I want to mention the value of money. You know, sometimes we hear people singing the praises of solo living when money is tight. From my experience, money can give you lots of options. I think we all realize that having money gives us more choices in life. You can go on a holiday to exactly where you want to go, and you can go in the style that you want to go. You might want to go business class, first class, and stay 5-star. You could renovate your whole kitchen. You could renovate your bathrooms in your house. You could do an extension on your home. You could buy yourself a brand new car, not a second-hand car. And when you don't have money, your choices shrink. And I think that's one of the hardest psychological adjustments in retirement. To suddenly feel like your range of options has contracted, that can be difficult, especially for solo women who spent most of their life working hard, managing money, making decisions, and paying all their bills without too much stress. And suddenly they feel like their range of options has contracted. That can be difficult. And something that I don't think we hear about enough is that financial stress can cause physical stress. It can keep you awake at night or interrupt your sleep, and it can change your mood. It can even change your relationships with people. Sometimes you might be feeling anxious, irritable, and you just distance yourself from people. And when you keep hearing that money doesn't buy happiness, well, sometimes that saying doesn't really help much. It doesn't really stop your concerns and pay the electricity bill. I just wanted to acknowledge this first. It's real, it can feel heavy at times, and you're not weak if you sometimes find it a bit hard going. Now here's something that I've been thinking about lately, and I even mentioned this to a friend recently. I said, do you remember when money seemed to just go so much further than what it does today? I'm pretty sure I'm not imagining it, and I wasn't just trying to be nostalgic. I'm sure you can relate to this. When I was in my 20s, 30s, and even in my 40s, your wage or your income just seemed to cover a lot more. If you were renting, it was a smaller proportion of your income. Groceries were definitely cheaper, utilities were cheaper, you could run a car a lot more economically, and you could take a small holiday without it wiping out your finances for months or even a year or more. Let me give you some real numbers to put this into perspective. In Australia, the average price of bread 20 years ago was $1.50 to $2. Today, you're paying $4 to $5 for a basic loaf of bread. And if you're wanting something more specialised or organic, I know people that have paid over $10 for a loaf of bread. And we'll talk about eggs because everybody talks about the price of eggs. They are a staple. You're paying around $2 for a dozen eggs. And you might have even had a local poultry farm where you could go to get them even cheaper. These days I buy free-range organic eggs. I think everyone should buy free-range eggs. And I can pay up to $12 for a dozen. And one very big way, I think that our spending has changed, and even more so since the pandemic. We are buying so much more online. We have been given so much more access. The variety, the availability in stores alone has really increased, but online, well, it's almost limitless. Just about anything you want to buy, you can find it online and quite often cheaper. And that's great. I'm not complaining about that. I don't think many people are. But you know what it's like. You go into a particular website. You might be looking for a new floor rug, and in your mind, you've got a budget for that floor rug. You might put a price limit on what you're willing to spend. You go into the site and suddenly there's so much choice. There's rugs there that you just fall in love with, and they might be double what you intended to pay. The temptation to spend online is so real. It's very easy to tell yourself, well, it's only $50 more than I wanted to spend, or $100 more. And I know this has happened to me. I'm shopping online and I'm only there for one particular item. Well, I come across all these other items and suddenly I think I need them all. I convince myself I really could use that item. And before I know it, I've bought 2 or 3 things and I only intended to buy one. And you tell yourself, I deserve something nice. I haven't spoilt myself in a while. It's so easy to spend online. Back in the day, we just didn't have those options. If you wanted to purchase something, you had to get in your car or get on public transport and you had to go to the stores, and you could only have the choice of what was there available right in front of you. I live in a regional area. It's not tiny, it's not that small, but some time ago we didn't even have any of the majors. And now we have some major stores and they're full of stuff. They're full of choices. I remember when it was a really big deal to buy a new piece of furniture, perhaps a lounge suite. You didn't have a lot of choices. I think the malls can be dangerous places. There's temptation everywhere. I want to talk about that thing called happiness. And I think there is a distinction, and maybe it's just me, but I've worked this out over the years. People often talk about happiness, finding happiness, being happy, finding happiness in retirement. I think in ways the word happiness can set us up for, well, sort of feeling like we're failing. Because true happiness, that ecstatic joy, well, it's fleeting. It always has been. It's nothing new. The Buddhists have been telling us this for thousands of years. Happiness is not a permanent state. Even when we were younger, we might have had more money, or at least money went further. We weren't happy all the time. But I think what we might be able to sustain more often is peace of mind and contentment. Contentment feels a lot quieter than happiness. It doesn't exactly announce itself. It's not really the elation you get when something wonderful happens. It's the acceptance of where you are without constantly fighting it. It's finding something worth appreciating in the ordinary. And our peace of mind, I've come to believe later in life, is the most precious thing we have. Because stress, any kind of stress, is damaging. Chronic stress affects your cognitive function, your immune system, your sleep. And as we're getting older, our bodies require more of us. We can't afford additional stress. The truth is, peace of mind is rarely something you can buy. You might be able to buy yourself some temporary relief, a nice holiday, a day at a spa. But the real thing, the sustained version, that has to come from inside. It can come from your choices, who you're willing to allow into your life, from what you're willing to engage with and what you're not, from the boundaries that you create and the ones you maintain. And all of this can come from one place. And this can be one of the hardest things to work on, acceptance. You know, the if-onlys, they'll eat you alive. This is something I feel strongly about. I say this as somebody that's had to battle this in my own mind. The if-onlys can come like this. If only I'd made better decisions. If only I'd saved more. If only I hadn't trusted that person. If only I hadn't taken that risk. If only I had taken that risk. If only I hadn't have stayed in that situation longer than what I should have. If only I had have stayed. If only I had more super. If only I had bought more properties. If only this and if only that. They'll eat you alive. I don't say this to be dismissive of genuine regret. Some of those if-onlys are attached to real pain, real loss, real decisions and real consequences. And I'm not suggesting that we pretend that those things didn't happen and they didn't matter. But living inside the if-onlys, replaying them, measuring your current life constantly against a version of your life that never happened. This can be one of the most destructive things you can do to yourself. It doesn't change anything, not one single thing. The balance in the bank account remains the same, no matter how many regrets you've got, no matter how many if-onlys you've got. And I think at some point, and this is a process, it's not like you just flip a switch. You have to make a decision to put the if-onlys down, not because everything is fine now, not because you don't wish it was different, because you can't build anything real while you're living in a version of your life that doesn't exist anymore. So let's get practical, because I don't want this to be all about being philosophical and there's nothing we can do about it. And I've genuinely thought about what helps. What actually makes a difference to the quality of your life that doesn't cost very much money or doesn't cost anything at all? I think the first thing we could look at is finding free pleasure. I mean, genuinely finding it. Not the things that you think should bring you pleasure, but the things that do. For myself, that's going out dancing, social dancing, to live bands. Good music and socialising with people that grew up with the same music that I did. It's free and people go because they love it, and the bands play because they love it. And there's something quite wonderful about being in a room full of people who are all enjoying the same thing at the same time. These free pleasures are everywhere. You might go walking. You might have a hobby like photography. You might be into gardening. A lot of people love reading. They might join libraries. There are so many things, but it does require that you show up. Maybe we have to stop waiting for the bigger and the better. Maybe we have to accept the small pleasures. I think another thing is to be selective with who you spend your energy on. As we age, you might have less energy. You don't want to spend your energy on people that drain you or people that create drama. Some people have a way of making you feel worse about yourself or your life. That's a cost you can't afford. I think this is where boundaries become not a luxury, but a necessity for self-preservation. And this one has taken me a long time and I'm still working on it. Stop the comparisons. We know there's always going to be people around you that are doing better financially. There's people that seem to be out there traveling all the time or just going out all the time. We're in the age group now where a lot of people have inherited money. Some people are still with partners that are working. Some people have wonderful supers. Measuring your life against theirs will make you miserable every single time. Like all of us, in this chapter of my life, I've had some good days and I've had some bad days. I haven't arrived at some place of permanent peace and contentment. I'm going to be honest about that. Some days it weighs on me. Some days I still wish it was different. Having said that, I find plenty of ways to joke and to laugh, to have great conversations. I get moved by music, by beauty, by ordinary moments that cost nothing. I have built a life smaller than the one that I imagined, and sometimes it surprises me that I find so much satisfaction. It's certainly not perfect, it's not what I planned, but most days it seems to be enough. If you're in the same situation and you're navigating solo retirement with less than you imagined or hoped you would, you're not alone. All is not lost, it really isn't. So let me know what's helped you, because we're all figuring this out together.